Hey, thanks for clicking on Guns and Watches and watching this video. Hopefully, this one will help you in your quest to purchase pistols and maybe help you with a little bit on purchasing wristwatches and maybe even other things as it goes on. So, a friend of mine who must have been quite wealthy got into watching YouTube videos of a guy who was reviewing, and this is in air quotes if you could see me, reviewing pistols. And he got the bug. I mean, we all get the bug when we get into this, whether we get into watches or guns or musical instruments or tuning up cars or stuff like that. We get the bug and we want to spend some money and collect some stuff and have some fun. This guy got it bad. And he's one of the reasons why I decided to start a watch channel because of him. I got to shoot about 30 or 40 top shelf guns that I never would have even thought of in my own, my own journey to get pistols. My own journey was started with 9/11, 2001, and I wanted to go back into the military. And my wife was pregnant with our first at the time, and she patted her tummy and said, "You are not going back in the military." And at that point, I'd been, pro gun my whole life, and you know, raised around guns and whatever, and in the military. But I didn't even own a pistol at that point. Didn't own anything at that point. I started buying guns, and I was preparing for the onslaught. I thought we were going to have jihadis blowing up 7-Elevens right and left. A lot of veterans did. A lot of people did. So I started buying pistols and training to be very accurate, very fast, because I thought there were going to be suicide bombers around. And then the school shootings started to happen, which is almost the same exact skill set. So if you mass shooting happens, there's one bad guy, you want to be trained up to deal with that if you're on site. And same with the jihadis. I've never, neither thing ever happened when I was around, praise God. But along the way, I spent an incredible amount of money getting really good at shooting handguns. And I had this friend who had one time he brought some guns to the gun range. We were going to have a big group gun range time with a bunch of us bringing all our black guns, and he had not yet got into it. And he brought a Walther, the James Bond gun, and he brought a 1911, and neither that he thought neither one worked. And I just addressed that both of them just needed new magazines, and I got them running on the range limited, got them running, and then I was just nailing it at 25 yards. I was putting a lot of rounds downrange back then, and so after that, when he started buying guns, he would use me to evaluate his new purchases. And I got tired of going to the range. If you think that could even be a thing, he would call me and have me come over to shoot a video for something else or hang out, have some drinks or whatever. And then I'd go over to his house, and then he'd have the gun bag ready to go and drive us over to the gun range where he was a member, and he'd be putting all these guns in my hand to see how accurate they were because he knew I was a good shot. There is a downside, by the way, to shooting a lot of pistols, is that you will lose your ability to shoot your own. This is something that I had to adopt. Is that every time I'd have one of these range sessions with his guns or with a bunch of other people or whatever, by the end of the day, I would have to put a magazine on my own carry gun down range just to make sure I was still tuned up. But this fellow was buying guns because he was watching a YouTuber who had tons and tons of views and viewers, and my friend was buying absolutely everything he saw the guy shoot. This was ridiculous. I hope that guy was on commission. Hope he got paid for it. Uh, and my friend couldn't hit with these guns, and I kept telling him, I said, "Look, man, just take this." He had CZ75, IWI. He had a custom Beretta 92. He had CZ Shadow or something. Maybe that was later on. But he just had a host of very good guns. Long slide 10 millimeter Glock with a holographic sight on top of it. That was very accurate pistol. I put 3 rounds at 25 yards that you could cover with a quarter. Of course, the other two were quite a bit of ways away because my hand got tired of shooting that 10 millimeter pretty fast. But his YouTube, he starts sending me the YouTube videos to watch. He's like, check this one out, check this one out. And all the guy is doing is taking these guns and he's hiding behind a barrel and he's shooting, and you can hear the report of a steel target. Ding, ding, ding. And I'm like, okay, where's the data? He's like, what do you mean? I said, where's the data? How do you know the gun the guy was shooting is good? How do you even know he was shooting the gun that he said he was reviewing? Because it's a handgun, and the camera's 15 feet away. It could be any kind of handgun or whatever. It kind of insulted him at that point. But if you want to know how good a gun is, you need to find good gun reviewers and follow them. And I personally don't buy any pistols that have not been reviewed by a reputable reviewer. And so the first thing you do is find a reputable source. And American Rifleman is the foundation. They're not the only ones. There's a lot of reputable sources out there: Guns and Ammo, Shooting Time, Shooting Illustrated, Field and Stream. The list goes on and on and on. This doesn't mean that the YouTubers are bad. Okay, it just means that they're not actually giving you quantifiable data of which to go and purchase a gun. The good news is today in 2025 that there's nothing on the shelf that's bad. About 15, 20 years ago, the manufacturing of pistols, I'm talking about pistols, by the way, but the manufacturing of pistols hit a pinnacle to where you really have to go out of your way to buy something that just doesn't function. Okay, it may not function as well as, but if you're spending, I would say north of $500 today on a pistol at any type of gun store or sporting goods store, not from a person, anything north of $500, you've got something that's going to last you a lifetime. Doesn't matter whose name is on the side of it. It's not going to be a bad pistol whatsoever. But is it suited for your purposes, and does it do what you want to do? Well, I'm going to teach you how to read some gun reviews here, and this may even be a very long one because I'm feeling long-winded today. But the first stop is to find the reputable people. Doesn't mean you don't watch the YouTubers, doesn't mean you don't enjoy it. It's really fun watching these guys shoot and plank. It's really fun listening to their perspectives and their wisdom. I personally like Hickok 45, really relate to his shooting style, really relate to him, you know, as kind of a genuine guy. So the NRA is the best. And by the way, I don't always agree with the NRA. Not everybody does. I probably disagree with him on things that you would find shocking. But if you're not a member, please sign up. We would not have the Second Amendment as a guaranteed constitutional individual right today. We wouldn't have right to carry today. Wouldn't have any of these things whatsoever if it wasn't for the NRA. And we need them. And even if you disagree, we got to have strength in numbers, and we need to have them. And they went through some crazy stuff with the previous president. I always wondered why he was the president of NRA for so long. But they've cleaned up the House, and we do need to stick together in good times and in bad. And also, we need to give honor to the people who came before us to get us to this place. So please do sign up for the NRA. By the way, I have nothing to do with the NRA other than being a life member since 2006. So you need to find data in your gun reviews. You just have to have it. And in fact, a CZ75 that I own, I I found American Riflemen had reviewed this particular weapon or a variant that's very close. There's a few 75D There's a few 4-inch barreled CZ75Ds or 75P01. They have a bunch of different names where it's really the same gun with very slight variations on it. And I wrote to them and I said, can you send me your performance data? Because I wanted to see if my gun, what I could expect out of it. And that's what you're getting from these gun writers. These gun writers are professional shooters with professional empirical protocol to test out a pistol, which is for a duty pistol is less than 4 inches at 25 yards is considered an acceptable stat for a, a duty weapon. And what a duty weapon is something that is meant to be carried by a uniformed policeman or a uniformed military person. It's meant to be put in service, in duty type service, not a compact to be carried, although there's some crossover there, and not a specific like a hog hunting, 44 Magnum with an 8-inch barrel that's got a scope on top of it. Those are going to have much different specifications. A regular duty gun, your general black gun, should be to be considered good should be less than 4 inches at 25 yards. And so the NRA test is the standard test, and you can duplicate it. You could duplicate their test by getting a sandbag rest and going out to the range at 25 yards and firing your pistol, you know, 5 times and seeing what the group is, seeing what you get. So you can reproduce. It's very scientific, very empirical, and they measure all the duty guns the same. And we really need to have this. Now, this is real data here. This SD means standard deviation, which means the velocity, the difference of the different bullet's velocity as it left the barrel of the gun. You want consistency on velocity because you want the projectile to actually travel uniform, which is a function of the accuracy. It also tells you the velocity of the feet per second here, that this particular pistol really, really liked the CCI Blazer Brass at 1170 feet per second with a max with an average group of 1.75 inches is telling you that this gun likes hotter rounds. So you get really deep into this stuff. It is actually rocket science, by the way. When you get into firearms, you are learning uh, rocket science, but you need this. You need somebody to be reviewing your weapons, reviewing the weapons with a chronograph. I haven't yet to see any of these YouTuber guys sit down and do the boring work of shooting through the chronograph and mapping out uh, the feet per second. They're more concerned with having fun on the range, which is cool. So we have these guys who are gun writers who do the boring work for us so we can know what to expect. This is also a measurement of the quality of the ammunition. The ammunition is a huge part of a gun. The projectile, the ammunition, if it's not made precisely, you're not going to have precise shooting results. Each round has to have the same exact amount of propellant in it. It's got to have the bullet weights have to be the same. The bullet sizes have to be the same. Everything has to stack up. All the tolerances have to stack up in order for you to have reproducible um, uh, precision from which to build accuracy. Um, the weapon on the screen that we're looking at here, I'm using this month's, I'm shooting this in June 2025, and I am using, well, actually, I think it's still May. I'm using the NRA's 2 weapons that they reviewed happen to be made by companies of which I carry, of which I have, and they put 2 really good representative reviews in here for me to give you the contrast of what a good review is and what a bad review is. And not really a bad review, but just where the other gun fits. Where this gun fits is in your safe. Okay, this gun here, shooting 1.75 inches and 1.96 inches with 2 different cartridges that are 30 grains apart. is absolutely astounding. You you can go buy a $2,500 custom made 9mm rig from one of the custom houses and come home and not have numbers like this. This is a gun that this review should make you want to buy this gun because you are not as accurate as this gun is. And I personally own a CZ75. What we're looking at here is what's called the CZP09. I have a 75D that came with factory accuracy spec of less than 2 inches at 25 meters. I had to do the math on that, and it is the you're getting absolute custom performance out of a production gun with this set of accuracy, and you're doing it for less than $600. Um, and so this is good information. But if your gun reviewer isn't providing you this, then what he's giving you is more of a feeling. This is actual test data that you can reproduce and see if you're getting the same performance. Now, this does not mean that every CZ75 or CZP09 or whatever is going to perform like this. The guns, we all go into this knowing that there's a significant variation. We may get a different lot of CZI Blazer brass, which is very cheap ammo, by the way. The Blazer brass is low end practice ammo. You may get a different lot that doesn't perform as well. You may have different temperatures. It says it's 45 degrees Fahrenheit with 65% humidity. So this gun was reviewed in the wintertime and may perform differently in the summertime. We all know that as gun owners. We all know that you're going to have some slop. But if the representative sample is less than 2 inches at 25 yards, the odds of you getting one of these that's greater than 4 is pretty low, and an incredible testament to the production of this pistol that it can come to market at less than $600 for list price with this performance. Uh, Next slide is the other part of the diagram here, and this is telling you the purpose of the gun, but it's doing it with measurements, with the actual stats. Now, what's really curious about watch reviewers is this is all they tell you. All the watch reviewer does is read you the spec: 40 millimeter case size, 12 millimeters thick, so many millimeters lug to lug. Seriously, they're just telling you that the thing has dimensions, right? Uh, they do put some stuff into context and tell you that hey, every once in a while that hey, that 42 millimeter dive watch isn't going to fit on a 6-inch wrist. They do put that stuff into play every once in a while, but what this is telling us right here is what you're getting for the money. So for $579, this is great that they list the list price. Seldom do we pay list price in watches or in guns, but at least you have a feel for what you're going to pay. This weapon has a double action and single action trigger, which is significantly different from what everybody's carrying today. I'm an odd duck because I carry one like this. Um, Everybody else is carrying what's called double action only, which are really single action only, but don't get me started. But they're carrying striker fire pistols like a Glock or an XD or a SIG or an M&P or an HKs like this. So strike that. There's lots of striker fire pistols out there. The SIG P365 is what I'm talking about, not the 226. So um, that's different. It's different. It's something that was really big in the 90s, which is actually before I got into guns. It was really big when the M9 was employed by the military, the double action, single action. It's not that big of a hit anymore because everybody wants their first shot to be the same as their second shot. However, if you get one of these, you could see that in single action, the CZ trigger is really good. I've heard that there are aftermarket CZ triggers. I have no idea why. It's a steel trigger. On mine is a steel trigger, and it's very, very good. What's telling you here is the 4.5 inches. If you look at the weapon, about the middle of it towards the top uh, is the back end of the chamber where the bullet goes into the chamber. to the end of the barrel is 4.5 inches. In semi-automatic pistols, they count the chamber as part of the barrel length. And at 4.5 inches, that's telling you that this is a gun meant for uniformed service. This is a big gun. This is a gun you'd want to have on you if you knew you were going to get into a firefight, if you were going into a war zone, if you were a policeman. This is a gun that's very big, and not very big, but it's big, and it's got enough barrel to where you could reach out and hit someone far away if you absolutely had to do it. By the way, legal note, if you carry one of these and you shoot somebody at 25 yards, even though we have the right to defense in this country and we have the stand your ground laws are all over the place and everything like that, if you shoot somebody at 25 yards, you be prepared to explain that to the police department and be prepared to explain that to a judge. Okay? Um, if you have to shoot somebody that far away in peacetime, uh, not they better have been doing something really, really bad. Or if they were like shooting into a crowd or something and you saw them and you dropped them at 25 yards, then you're getting a parade. But if you shoot somebody who hasn't done something bad at 25 yards, you're going to have a hard time explaining that one. This weapon weighs 29.6 ounces, which is pretty reasonable for a 4.5 inch barreled pistol. It's chambered in 9 millimeter. Has a steel slide with a fiberglass polymer uh, uh, grip or body, and um, 19 rounds detachable box. 19 rounds of 9 millimeter, which you put one in the chamber. You have an entire box of bullets in the gun. That is a sizable weapon that is meant if you're going to field, if you're going to work with law enforcement or something like that. That's the purpose of this gun. You can conceal something like this. It is the thickness of the weapon was right in front of me, but I believe it's over an inch. But not too much over an inch. So you can actually carry this weapon concealed. I do have an FNP 45, which has similar dimensions to this, and I do have a holster for it and can get away carrying it concealed. But I am also 6'1", 225 pounds, and so I can hide a lot if I put on a sport coat. But that's the purpose of this chart right here, is to give you the physical dimensions of the gun, which those dimensions tell you why, what you would do to own it. If you needed something for home defense, this might be a good option if you're a single man with a sizable grip. Might not be a good option if you have ladies in the house, because this is a pretty big pistol, and so this might be a little bit too big for somebody who's 5'4" and 120 pounds. Might not be. You'd have to test it out. But for a home defense weapon, it's pretty good. Glove box, this is pretty good. And then you could have a holster if you needed to employ something big. Next slide is the contrast. Now, that previous weapon we were looking at was the CCP09 Nocturne. Very, very good, very positive review. The magazine only put 2 pages on it because it wasn't a full review, I guess. But I mean, what a nice review. What a hard life it is to review a weapon that shoots 1.75 inches at 25 yards. This is a different story. This is not I don't want to say it's a bad review, but even though this gun has similar dimensions to the other gun and similar magazine capacity, it's not for shooting far away. This is the Kel-Tec PR57. 57 stands for 5.7, which is the chamber that it shoots. The 5.7 became very popular with the P90 that most of us know from watching Stargate. The P90 is a bullpup full auto defense weapon, rifle, and then FN made pistols in 5.7 that are very good pistols. Very, very good pistols, shoot really far away. Unfortunately, they are famous for a very bad day at Fort Hood when Nadal Hassan lost his mind and decided to shoot up Fort Hood. those weapons. That's why they're infamous. That cartridge was developed by FN to give you a smaller performance of the 5.56 and something that you could employ in a pistol and a rifle so that you could standardize in the military. Keltec has decided to make the lightest pistol that fires that round. And you can see from the front of this gun that it doesn't work like just about any other gun that anybody's carrying because it's got a rotating bolt with lugs on it. And that's cut out in the front of the gun because the gun's going to slide back. The slide's going to go back and grab those at some point in its action. This gun loads from the top with stripper clips. I don't know. World War I called and they wanted their technology back, but that's what they decided to make. It only weighs 14 ounces, so it's very light. You might consider carrying it. But there's a couple of things here that are going to tell you why it's not that good of a pistol. And I have them circled in red. It's a 3.87-inch barrel length, which I don't know why. It's oddly specific. Normally they would say 3.9 inches, which is equivalent to 100 millimeters. Most of our weapons, if they say they're a 4-inch barrel, they're really 3.9 because 100 millimeters is a lot easier for manufacturing to work with. And they only shot it at 15 yards. So that is politely, the gun reviewer politely telling you that this is not a 25-yard gun, even though it's got a 20-round magazine capacity and it's got a big enough barrel to be a duty gun. This is not a duty gun. Now, at 15 yards, it produced similar group sizes to the CZ at 25 yards. So there's your difference. That's why you would know if you bought this. Now, people are going to buy this gun. People are going to enjoy this gun. What is this gun for? Having something concealed that has a ton of firepower, a ton of ammunition. And it's very unfortunate that it's not accurate enough to go to 25 yards, or the gun writer chose not to put the 25-yard results out because they might have been so large that it might scare some people away from buying it, because you don't want to insult the gun maker. The other thing about Keltec is that these guys are cutting edge. That is their shtick. Their shtick is to think of something that nobody else has ever made, make it, and sell it for cheaper than anybody else could ever make it. So because of that, their guns are not polished out. They don't have fancy finishes on them. They don't have high-end sights. They aren't as refined as a CZ or a Glock or an M&P. List goes, a Ruger. I don't want to leave anybody out. I'd be here for half an hour if I didn't leave anybody out. So they're not refined. So the makers of Keltec down in Florida will release a weapon with brand new tech for very cheap because they don't finish the guns. They're releasing things that are just a step past beta, and they're putting them out there. And that's not bad. That's not bad at all, because it puts these guns in the hands of people who probably couldn't afford an FN57. They couldn't afford this gun that if it was made finished out. I personally also have a Keltec. This is why I decided to make a video about this month's American Rifleman, because we reviewed two manufacturers that actually the two guns that I carry are the CZ75D and a Keltec P3AT. And I have a Keltec on me 90% of the time. The P3AT is a 380 caliber. It's not even a subcompact. It's a micro compact. It almost looks like a toy. It holds 6+1. It fits in your pocket. It's pocket size 380. They are the first people to do that, and is the gun that I conceal carry with most of the time. I've received a lot of grief from my friends for carrying such a tiny gun. But then I asked them, where's your gun? Oh, it's in the truck. Oh, it's over here. Oh, I left it at home. Well, I don't leave my gun at home. I got something that goes bang in my pocket all the time. It's made by Keltec. We have two, actually. My wife has one as well, because you can have these on you in shorts weather, and you can have them on you in any kind of weather, in any type of cover. You can always have a P3 AT on you with 7 rounds of 380, which is enough to slow down a mass shooter long enough for the police to get there and take care of business. You got to be able to return fire. The first rule of a gunfight is have a gun. And I love Keltec, but my gun is not refined. But I bought it when it was invented. I want to say I've had this going on 20 years, 18 years at least, I think. Somebody could tell me when this gun was invented because I bought it right after it was invented for $275. They came out with the Pocket 380 when they could have charged whatever they wanted to charge for this gun. They charged 275 bucks. It's not refined. It has trough sights. It's not pretty, but that's Keltec. That's what they make, and it's a great weapon to have on you. So this Keltec, don't if you think it's cool and you want to buy it and you want to try it out, go for it. But don't think that you're getting something that's going to test your marksmanship. It is not going to do that. And the way you have to reload it with stripper clips from the top, does not have a detachable box magazine, means that you really do not want to get in a firefight with this pistol, because if you're out of ammo, you can't partially reload. This is just kind of a boutique type pistol right here. So let me check my notes. And so now we're going to get into the contrast between the gun reviewers and the watch reviewers, which this should probably be its own thing, but I just felt like chatting today. Um, the contrast is that watch reviewers are almost all 100% bought and paid for marketing agents of their watches, of the companies that they are, quote, reviewing. Okay, the two coolest guys out there. There's three super cool guys out there that review watches, but one doesn't really review watches. He's more of an industry guy. But Teddy Baldessar and Mark from Long Island Watch are great guys, and if you want an education as to how business works, how manufacturing works, how watches work, you want to watch those two guys. But they're salesmen. That's what they're doing. When they're reviewing a watch, they are demoing the watch, because those guys have Mark makes his own, but he's also a distributor for several brands. Teddy is a distributor of several brands, and both of these guys are to be looked up to and to be admired because they are American dream guys. They're self-made, and they have stores, and they have successful businesses, and they're very humble guys, but they're salesmen. So they're not going to tell you that this whatever watch that they just got sucks. They're not going to say anything bad about it because they probably have an inventory of these watches on the shelf that they need to unload. And nobody's going to buy them if they tell you the watch is not quite as good as you wanted it to be. Now they will say some things that you have to catch, if some non-flattering things, every once in a while, but not too much. Mike from This Watch That Watch, he is more of a, I believe he's probably a stock trader, uh, uh, where he probably makes his money because he understands industry, and very seldom does he do a watch. So that's the difference. Is the difference is the watch, and there's other guys. I'm sitting here. I've watched two videos from a guy. I can't believe I even watched one where he was reviewing a watch that the maker sent him, and he got to keep. He got to keep the watch by quote reviewing the watch. You got a free watch out of it, and that's he's not going to say anything bad about that watch. What the watchmakers are doing is they're using the YouTubers as part of their marketing strategy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't think this is bad by any stretch of the imagination. Just understand the perspective of the information that you are getting. That they're going to hit to high points, but then you better find a review of the watch that actually by somebody who doesn't have a vested interest. So the few watches that I'm going to review on this channel, seem to be growing by the day, are going to have performance specifications. I'm going to tell you how it worked because I'm a gun guy. I'm a gun guy, and I'm not going to buy something if I don't know the specs. If you look at Seiko's spec for the 4R35 or the any 4R movement is absurd. It's not a spec. They should just say we don't have a spec. It's like more than a minute a day the thing can be off. That's ridiculous. But then you get into the tighter tolerances of um, of the Powermatic 80, and they're like minus 10 plus 25 a day. And Viair is a minus 10 plus 15 every day. And so you look at the different specifications, and they're basically stating that the watch has to completely malfunction before you can send it in to get tuned up. Okay, that's what that is. But you want to know how well the thing's going to tell time, and this is where the watch reviewers are just simply falling down. They're not doing it. So I do that. If you watched my not with a quartz watch, but if you watch my automatic watch videos, I will tell you the accuracy specification that I got. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but at least you can have some ballpark on that. We rely on the gun reviewers, the real gun reviewers, not the YouTubers, but the gun reviewers, the professional gun writers. We rely on them for the performance data. It's very unusual for a production gun to have an accuracy spec because the production guns, with the exception of the almighty Glock, which only has a 1-year warranty, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen, which I learned by finally getting frustrated with the Glock that I bought in month 13 and finding out it wasn't covered. Can't believe this. Because everybody else is lifetime. Every other gun that I have has a lifetime warranty. So the gun makers aren't going to put out a spec because some Yahoo is going to come by 25 years later and say my gun should still be doing that, and they would just simply go bankrupt, which is probably why Seiko's spec is so big. If you got 100 million watches on Earth, you can't spend all your profits tuning them up. But the gun industry has the equivalent of these watch writers, watch reviewers, YouTubers, and they do employ professional shooters. The IPC people, the 3-gun people, people get sponsorships, and they get sponsored by Springfield Armory, they get sponsored by FN, but they wear the shirt. So you know when you're watching this pro shoot, and they are making you want to buy the gun, you know that they're actually sponsored by FN. They got big FN on their back, and you know the banners and everything's FN everywhere. There's all this marketing collateral all over the place. But when you're watching a watch reviewer and they're like, I'm going to give you an honest opinion of this company that I represent. I mean, it's gonna. I'm not saying the guys are dishonest, but they're going to be a little clouded. So gun writers are different. Professional gun reviewers are different because the companies have to woo them. The companies have to entice them to review a gun, and gun reviewers will tell you if the gun sucks. I showed that they slightly showed you with the Keltec example, but I've read published watch reviews before, or published gun reviews before, where the representative sample just simply did not work, and they had to send it back, and the company had to send another gun, and they put that in the writing. And you know that in manufacturing, most adults know that, and if you didn't know, statistical perfection is 4 failures per million. It's a Six Sigma thing right there. Maybe it's 6 errors per million. So bottom line is that statistical perfection still has imperfections in it. So things happen, and you get something that malfunctions, or something doesn't work, maybe it wasn't put together right, put in the wrong box, but they put that in the reviews, and they tell you that the things don't work well, and they're the ones who are putting together the performance data, and the performance data matters. So it's very helpful what the gun writers do, and I'm sure that they probably get tired of pulling the trigger at some point. 20 years into their career, they probably are getting tired on that. But I personally, like I said, this is the beginning of the video, I'm not buying a gun unless it or something like it has been reviewed uh, by uh, by some of these gun writers, by one of these gun writers. If I can't find the performance data on the internet then I'm probably not going to buy the gun uh, because I want to know what I'm getting, and I'm a good enough shot that it matters. It's just simply uh, that reliable. So for instance, my AR-15 is a Smith and Wesson M&P Sport 2. I don't know why the thing's got such a long name on it, but I don't think my particular rifle was reviewed, but a different one in the line was reviewed, and I went off that data. But if these gun makers are not willing to allow people who will be critical of their product to review it, then I want nothing to do with it. Um, Simply the straight truth. And so that's why when you get into the watches, how it is so easy to spend an enormous amount of money because you really don't know what you're getting until you get it. With these humongous tolerances on the accuracy, um, you get you get the watch. Most of them run really really good, uh, but that accuracy spec should makes you kind of weary about it. So the when you see me review a watch, though, I have a protocol that I've come up with because I have a whole career spent calibrating things, being a technician, an engineer for going on 3 decades now. I know how to test things and I know how to establish baselines. So when I get a new wristwatch, it goes through a protocol uh, before I say it's good or bad for two reasons. One, I like making these videos. Well, a couple more reasons. I did a Rick Perry thing there. One, I want to set a baseline. I want to know how good it is before I start wearing it because I want to know how good it was when it was new. So that way, when it breaks, I have something to go back to. Two, you want to know what time it is, right? Three, before I'm going to make a video, I want to know that the thing is actually worth a hoot. If I go recommending something, I don't know how these watch reviewers are recommending something that they don't even know is good or not. I mean, they know it's pretty, and they know it's made by the Swiss or by the Japanese, but they don't really know what the thing can do. Um, and other reasons is that you want to just get a feel for something before you start wearing it. Um, but please like and subscribe, comment, share, do something to let me know you're out there. I do like talking about this stuff, and it would be nice if the channel got uh, some traction someday. My reason for putting these videos out there is to help people to not make the expensive and embarrassing mistakes that I have made in the past. And that's by buying guns that just didn't fit what I was trying to do, and spent a lot of money on holsters, spent a lot of money on uh, wristwatches, much to my wife's chagrin. My wife is actually fine with the weapons because she knows it's a dangerous world, but the watches are really toys. So please like and subscribe, and if these videos happen to help you uh, when you're making these purchases or when you're buying something, please drop me a line. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching Guns and Watches, and talk to you next time. Bye bye.